And it's also a good point that Dave, you brought up. This presentation is not designed to be a monologue in any sense of the fashion. We want to make sure that your questions are heard or answered. If there's things that we're not seeing, you all are the front line, working with agencies as well as agents on this upcoming AEP season. Whether or not you're focused on more Med Subs or Medicare Advantage, or more career model versus the brokerage, and this is intended for everybody. So for those that I've not personally met, my name is Stephen Prince. Glad to be with you here today. We got a great all-star team, top to bottom, in you, but also in a team that has been dedicated to MedicareCENTER for this AEP. On the phone with me is going to be a gentleman named Jake Christensen. Jake actually lives in Idaho, so Dave up there towards y'all's neck of the woods. Jake has been with Thomas Arts for a long time. The guy is smart as a whip, and you'll see that he didn't just learn Medicare. He didn't just learn things going on here. They've been in and around these type of rollouts and products and technologies for a long time. We also have Deja Dowling from the team at Thomas Arts that's dedicated to integrity. She is really leading up, helping us learn, listen, and schedule and plan and get out this campaign for MedicareCENTER this year. Deja's based in the Salt Lake area. And then we have Justin McBee on the line. He's really a subject matter expert within the integrity family. He's been with Nice Washington Fleming for quite a while. Justin has traveled around the country training our platform partners previous AEPs and previous years on what MedicareCENTER and ConnectSure have done for us. And then he also has really spearheaded an advisory council with ConnectSure to make sure that the things that we're hearing, the things that you're bringing up, the things that your agents and agencies are talking about, that they get applied and changes get made based on what the market's demanding inside of ConnectSure. And you'll hear from Justin quite a bit. So the guy lives and breathes this stuff. Even on his days off, he joins us like he's doing today. So Deja, Jake, Justin, thank y'all for being here. And then rest of the team, absolutely. Everyone has been muted. But if there's a question, unmute yourself. If you want to type it out, I'll be watching that and kind of can help MC this deal. But first and foremost, we want to tell you that we have created a whole PowerPoint that will give more of that macro, the 40,000 foot version of what MedicareCENTER and the tools within it are. And we have that. We've already, Brian actually, an email went out from Brian. He didn't actually hit send. I almost misspoke there, but email went out from Brian that had those attachments. So there's a PowerPoint, and Jake, I don't know if you can share that while we're chatting about it. There's a PowerPoint that's about 29 slides, and there's a Word document that has all the talking points. And these items, these two pieces, are the nucleus of what we see as that next stage of training. We're going to be walking through some sandboxes, and those are also a pivotal element to this. But we wrote these talking points, so it has all the nuggets about MedicareCENTER within it. And it's written, so even if you read it word for word, it sounds like you're talking. So like slide 7 here, we've surveyed over 500 top producers from across the country. And just so you know, we're able to unlock some really key ingredients to make sure that successful Medicare selling is a part of this. When you think about it, those are the things that are absolutely key to your success as an agent. So I'll just pause there for a minute. You'll see that these are two great tools that you should already have in your inbox, and you can download in an email from Brian. All right. Those are in your inbox. If each platform partner is doing a lot of the training and planning of their key accounts right now, you all, we encourage you to start doing that. If you want some of our help on those trainings, man, reach out, raise your hand. I know I'm personally doing the macro level for 1 or 2 so far. I think even I think tomorrow is one of those. I need to double check my schedule. But if you want to do it on your own, hey, you're not going to hurt our feelings. You guys are smart, have been around this industry for a long time. But just know the tools that are available. That's my main point. So today, we want to go to Medicare Center. And I want to outline that what we see this is, it's not just a website. It's not just, something we had a couple years. This is new and exciting. Jake, if you want to pull up that main webpage. Medicare Center itself. It is a complete, robust sales and marketing system, primarily for MA med subs. It's got client management. It's got all the texting features. And so on this homepage, the way we outline this was just to try to highlight some more of those sound bites. We want to make sure this becomes part of your vernacular as a marketer, because it's you, the front lines, really, to the industry, that it's consulting with, that understands the way agents are selling, the way agencies are rolling this out. We want to make sure that first and foremost, that this thing is going to work, that this thing is going to be useful, that it's intended, whether or not someone wants to meet face-to-face, belly-to-belly, or completely digital and over the phone, virtual, or maybe even in between, sitting in a car in a house and doing it virtually, but knowing, hey, I'm just right here filling this out, and you don't have to be around me. So when an agent this year, this website will be live in a couple weeks. We haven't picked an exact date yet, but it's coming. So just know that. And whenever it's going to be live, you all will be the first people to know it's live. So an agent, whether or not they worked with you before, or this is their first year to work with you on Medicare Center, they're all going to need to register the first time. So here's how that plays out. So they'll click Get Started, and then they'll fill in just a few nuggets of information. Jake, are you driving here?
Oh, yep. Sorry. There we go.
Okay. So some basic demographics, name, NPN, that's really the common denominator of how they're going to remember this, and then their email. If someone had multiple logins to Medicare Center before, I'm told UHC kind of went through that, like the agency would have one, the agent would have one. They're going to do the same thing here with Medicare Center today. And so, if they've used Medicare Center in the past, they will definitely want to register both of those, and all their client information will be inside.
Yep. And that is, so a similar question that's come up on here, just to pre-answer it in case it does come up. We allow multiple logins to be running concurrently. And in addition to that, you can have multiple email addresses or the same email addresses across multiple NPNs. So we, as Stephen mentioned in the talking points, in all the surveys and interviews and everything we did, we heard that those were different scenarios that were occurring, and we wanted to make sure not to lock anyone out from an experience they were having, as Stephen kind of described there.
So once an agent is inside this sucker, they've experienced what we call a single sign-on. Now, I always ask the IT people, like, what in the world does that mean? Well, what that means is once they've registered for Medicare Center and they use that MPN, which they just know like a social, and then their password, like, they're in. One login, one username, one password, no more filling stuff out. What that's going to get them access to is this entire sales center and this learning center. So up top is really what I think of as like the sales center. So it's the Medicare Advantage enrollment, the MedSup enrollment, is the CRM, the client management tool we've developed. Within Learning Center, this is where we're putting the guides on how to use these tools, how to use this system, how to have best practices for technology, working remotely, different carrier guides that are useful. So if there's a university scenario, like, this is it. If there's, one place where anything an agent could find beneficial, or maybe even stuff that they can read through and flip through, like this is it. If you as a marketer go, man, such and such is not in here, it would be awesome if it was. Raise your hand, let us know. This is how all this stuff was already created and brought to the platform. We didn't just have a blank slate and randomly think this stuff up. It was because individuals like you were going, hey, here's the reality of selling. Here's the reality of helping an agent, keep this simple, use first grade language. We need this kind of document on here. We need this type of sales tips. So that's the learning center. It's growing, it's breathing, it's living, it's always changing, and we want you to help us change it. Now up top, there's a couple of variables, and this is where you as the marketer have to really focus in and best train agents on this to say, look, depending on your main focus, depending on what you're wanting to build out, and if you're just wanting to quickly get to an app, I can guarantee you, if someone had used MedicareCENTER before, they're going to go, just tell me how to get to what I did last year. Like my example, like whenever I go to a restaurant, I don't care to look at the menu. I just want to ask the attendant, the waiter or waitress, and say, hey, what's y'all's best signature dish? Like, what are you known for? Like, that's what I want. I might want 2 of them. So just bring me that. So if an agent said, just tell me how I get to where it was last year, they would click on Medicare Advantage with PDP, and they would go to Medicare app. We kind of renamed what MedicareCENTER was because it's much more robust this year. So MedicareCENTER last year, aka Connecture, is now Medicare app. That would be where they would get there. Any of the clients they had previous years would be stored in the CRM function of Connecture Medicare app. The Medicare app does have texting features for scope of appointment. It's got texting abilities for signatures, and we're going to walk through that. But I think first and foremost, it's crucial to know that's how you get to where you were. And I'll have some long pauses for any questions at different times.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, Medicare Link is what many of you may have heard of as Sunfire. So Medicare App's Connecture, Medicare Link is Sunfire, and this is kind of a family meeting here. I mean, we're kind of all, being transparent, sitting around the table. We have chose to brand those our own names, so someone doesn't just say, you know what, yeah, can anybody go and pay a lot of stinking money and get an account with Sunfire? Yeah, they could, but we've done that. We've done it wisely. We've private labeled it, and we're calling it Medicare Link to try to help us stand out some. All right, so we're going to come back and play in those directly. I want to talk about client management for a minute. This is a complete system where an agent can enter in, and it's one by one. It's going to be a blank slate the first time they use it, but they can enter in their client's information. This is not talking over to Medicare app and Medicare Link. This is not, porting data over right now to Connecture, aka Sunfire, or Sunfire. This is this year set up. So if an agent says, you know what, I really need some type of client relationship management tool. I really need to manage my clients better. You as a marketer can go, hey, we got a solution for you. You can do it right in MedicareCENTER. It's called client management. So Jake, once you walk through just adding a new person and showcase what items they can enter in.
Absolutely. So inside here, if we click Add New, you can see we have first name, last name, email address, mailing address, city, state, as well as phone, postal code, follow-up status, and notes. The notes section is meant to be pretty wide-ranging and flexible. You can include information in here like previous products, where you met this person, different things like that. We wanted to make sure we knew we couldn't capture all potential fields out of the gate, so we wanted to make sure to get a space that can be used flexibly. In addition to that, follow-up is meant to help and assist with scheduling when you need to follow up with this prospect or this client next. And so with that, you're also able to, when you enter those and click Save, it will enter a new record in here. And then one other thing just to note, the phone and email will be click to call, click to email. If you're on a desktop, that click to call, if you have Skype set up, will go to Skype. Otherwise, all of these are built mobile friendly. So if you have client management open on the phone, you can click to call and have it call the prospect or the client right away from there. And then one other thing just to note quickly, this is the first step in this CRM. We're excited about what it can do today, but we're also looking at a lot of exciting additions to it. However, one of the most important things just for everyone to be aware of, this doesn't currently connect to the data in the 2 enrollment tools. We've got some things like that on the roadmap, but we will be able to confidently say this will retain any information that's entered in here as new features are released. So as we do things like pulling data from the enrollment systems, as we add more features, any records put in here will be retained and expanded based on that. So our agents can use this with confidence that year over year, month over month, they'll have this information as well as new features as they get added. So any other questions or anything you want to focus on here, Stephen?
No, I think we're good. I know who Brady Anderson is. I'm not sure who Brad Anderson is. I'm just kidding. So,
yeah.
You know, Baltimore Oriole fans back in the day. All right, so let's talk about Connecture while we're here. I mean, let's talk about the Medicare supplement quoting. Now, this is a tool many of you know as CSG. Our great friends over at CSG Actuarial. We know that's a key part of quoting, definitely for Medicare supplements. So Jake and his team have worked with the Connecture team to do some pretty cool stuff. So talk about that linking and what agents see when they're already logged in.
Sure. So as Stephen noted, and I'll reshare my screen here, one moment. There we go. As Stephen noted, CSG is a tool that we know a lot of teams are familiar with. One of the biggest things we focused on, as you saw here in MedicareCENTER, is the fact that CSG, from the surveys, interviews, different things we had, were indicated that Medicare supplement quoting was one of the things that CSG did particularly well. So we had focused on that. However, what we've worked out, so we kind of went through it a little bit quick on that first page, but one of the other things we're really excited about here is all-in-one universal login or single sign-on. You guys would have seen that in the materials that have gone out, any of the other presentations. So once an agent logs in via that first screen, they will have already been logged in to both of the enrollment tools as well as to CSG. The thing we're particularly excited about is they will, via their relationship with you, with the different partners, they will retain the access that if they have current access, they will retain that access in CSG. It won't be a limited version of the login. Now that is, so that does give access to things like the Medicare Advantage PDP quoting and a few other things in CSG based on what has been set up. And so we're pretty excited about that. In addition to that, we have worked out with CSG, if an agent has multiple logins for CSG, it will retain those logins as well. So if they have a couple of different relationships, they're going to be able to properly set the login to the relationship that they're trying to work through at a given time. So helps try and minimize some of that confusion and give agents the tools that they need to succeed. So we're pretty excited about that. I have made this offer each time we've walked through this. I can go through quoting in CSG. What we've heard is we've kind of talked through this training and everything else is that everyone's pretty familiar with CSG and there's a lot to cover here. And so we've given the option whether we want to proceed with showing CSG if anyone's not familiar with it. Otherwise, we'll focus on Medicare app and Medicare Link. So Stephen, I'll pause here, see if anyone would like to proceed or if we want to jump over to those tools.
Well, I'll speak up for AIM. We were familiar with CSG, so we're good on just moving forward. But I do have a quick question, and you brought it up about Jake, people being multi-contracted with various FMOs and that type of thing. If someone, if we bring someone on to the Medicare Center and we, with CSG, we only give them access to the carriers that they are appointed to through that AIM has. Is it going to open up all the carriers out there, or is it going to be, well, where they're contracted at? How's that going to work?
So it'll retain however you guys have it set up in CSG right now, it will retain that.
Okay. But it would also, let's say that they're doing business with a Premier and they're doing business with them, it'll also retain that too.
Well, the way that CSG does it is they actually have the ability to come up here and select the portal. So depending on which portal they want to work with. So it doesn't merge it all into, so if they're with AIM, it's not going to merge all of the other relationships into that search. It will be restricted to your search based on which portal they're in.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Any other questions here?
I thought that it seems so basic, but trust me, there's a lot that went into getting that flexibility. One, because we know how important CSG is, how many different ways it's used, and the multiple contracts that are out there. So big shout out to one CSG team, helping us. They're almost like family with us, but also just Jake and his team.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about this. Oh, go ahead.
Let's jump in and look at. Let's go back to that MA PDP quoting.
Okay.
All right. Back in the day, I recall checking out books at the library and using an old Dewey Decimal System and finding those choose your own adventure books. Where you go to a page, it's like, if you want to, use the sword to slay the dragon or the gun, turn to different pages. Well, that's what this is right here. I mean, this is the point where a producer truly has to go, which of the e-app enrollment tools am I going to be dedicated to? Data doesn't cross between these, meaning like if you have client data in Medicare app, you can't pull up that client in Medicare Link. There's a little bit different features to each one. It's all Pepsi versus Coke. It's Ford versus Chevy. It is Dan versus Dave. If you think back to the '92 Olympics, we at Integrity, we truly believe that these are both needed, they're required, they're being requested. So we're bringing it to the market. So you, being part of Integrity, you're bringing it to the market too. But this is where you have to wear that consultant hat as a marketer and know, why would I recommend an agent go one path or the other? One variable that I truly believe that you'll line up with is what carriers are within each of these apps. So we have a chart that shows the breakdown. The Medicare app you're going to see, because it's been around a little bit longer, it's got a lot of carriers available in there. Medicare Link, it's got a handful. Now this is always being updated. This may be from even last week. There will be a couple changes to this. There's not going to be like a score of big changes across the board. But this is where we gotta have to start planning out and not thinking how much is really going to be coming down the pipeline from Medicare Link. So I'll pause there for questions. We will continually be adding to this, and this will be one of those things like through now, and when AEP like truly kicks off, hey, there's an update to carriers. So if there's ever something you print off and put around your workstation, this is to me, this is one of those I would always kind of have up live and free and know what's happening across the board.
Yep.
So carriers need is crucial. So I think that first question is, did an agent use MedicareCENTER before? They did. It's almost a no-brainer that they should use Medicare app. Then what plans are they going to be representing? Well, if they have plans that are only Medicare Link, well, hey, Medicare Link's probably an option. You know, it's a bat you take up to the plate with you if you're playing a little baseball. Let's go back to the website, Jake.
Yep.
So we want to spend the first portion of time demoing this Medicare app, and then we want to jump into Medicare Link. And as Jake pulls up Medicare app, do know that the logins for these are built in. I mean, once you're in here, you're in here. There's no more username and passwords. And then the other variable is that they're going to look a little bit different. And that's something that you as a marketer, I recommend you kind of take hold of. So Jake, why don't you give us a demo within Medicare app?
Absolutely. So I'll go through a few different areas here. If anyone has any questions, please either message them into the chat or just shout them out. Between myself, Stephen, and Deja, and obviously Justin with his history with Connecture, we should be able to answer most of them. And there are features that are going to continually be added to this sandbox that we're going to share from Connecture as we lead up to the 10.1 kind of final release with Connecture. So any of you that used MedicareCENTER in the past, you'll notice a few changes to the interface here, some that are exciting and really nice, a couple that you'll kind of wonder as Connecture is still adding them. One of the ones we get a question on out of the gate here is some of the reporting, the dashboard that was there before. There will be reporting available for Medicare app. They just are working on a few things with it. In addition to that, there are some links across the bottom here that we know are pretty commonly used and familiar. Those will be added. And then Justin, I know that there's something that you like to call out here as well.
Yeah, so historically for those, and I think most of you on the call have used the system or tried, and we've spoken through it. On the bottom section, there's a really helpful resources section with a bunch of hyperlinks that we're all used to using. So additional to the physician formulary and pharmacy finder, which will still exist in the system, you will still have access. You don't see it currently today, but you will still have access to the enrollment status and opportunities, which allows all of our agents to easily get into their book of business. So they'll be able to see the specifics as far as the client name, when they were added to the system, if they're enrolled, etc. We are working towards some changes and additional columns for that specific section there. We're also looking into adding a link that we have not announced yet, but it should be pretty exciting if we can implement that at the bottom. So rest assured that you don't see those links today. You will still have access to that within Medicare app.
Okay, excellent. So then out of the gate right here in the, I'm getting an echo from someone. Okay. So out of the gate right here, we can search for any existing beneficiaries that we've been working with. So I'm just going to search using one I know I've entered before. So Dan Smith right there, that's my guy. So I can either click on him and get into the profile that I'd started for Dan Smith, or, and so you'll see the profile here, or what we're going to do is start a new profile and kind of go through the process here. So when creating a new profile, the very first thing you'll note is that it's requesting and requiring zip code. This is obviously important to be able to run quotes, to enroll, to proceed into a lot of the other function in the tool. And then we're going to do, let's do James Smith. And enter some birth date information. To be able to proceed, obviously you just fill out the fields that are asterisk, that indicates they're required fields. But the further we go into the application, these other fields become either useful to have or required to have. So when creating a profile from best practices standpoint, you can fill out as much information as you are able to get as you're working with a beneficiary, as with a prospect. As we move down right here, you'll see sales information. Is the sales contact different from the beneficiary? Yes. If yes, you fill out that information. If no, it's this information up here. That's a very helpful element, as we know if someone is helping like a parent enroll or anything like that. Oftentimes what it can create is you've got the beneficiary's first and last name and then someone else's email and phone number, which can cause confusion on follow-up or different things. So this gives you the ability to indicate if there's a separate contact. And as we come down here a little bit lower, we have some additional information that can be added to give a little bit more context. And then this open field, Justin had indicated, was previously just meant to be kind of a general use field that has been updated in the newest version of Connecture with the notes and tasks section that lets you add notes with any different topics you want to cover with this prospect, as well as specific tasks with due dates for following up with this prospect. And so while that field's still present and can be used, these are a little bit more flexible and functional. So at this point, I can save this record, James Smith, let me make sure I remember his name here. And once I save it, you'll notice up here at the top, James has been locked in as the profile that I'm working with. And I can click the drop down on James's name and get access to scope of appointment, preferences, which we'll jump into next, plans, as well as the cart. Down here, you can also see quote history, so any quotes I've sent him, and enrollment history for any enrollments that have been completed or started for this beneficiary. So I'm going to jump to add preferences. And while the screen's loading, I'm going to pause for a second. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. So now in the additional information section here, we have the ability to add health information, prescription information, and pharmacy information. And so in health, we have just 3 different tiers: generally healthy, no major illnesses, some health needs, or significant health needs. We're going to put some health needs. And then you have the age, which was calculated using that birth date that I entered. And so it places that automatically. You can change it here, but obviously that's the ideal, is that we're using the birth date information and that it was accurate. So then we can continue from there to prescriptions. And in prescriptions, you have 2 different ways to enter prescriptions. One is manually. So I'll just pick one at random here. Asks a few additional questions, and I can add that prescription. There we go. And then the other one is to connect to James's email on My Medicare Gov that'll pull down prescriptions that are linked there. So either one of those options will populate the prescriptions list. And I'm actually I'll put 2 prescriptions in here to show you what that does for us. Here we go. So now that I have the prescription selected, I'm going to hit continue and move to pharmacy. It's going to pull the zip code that I entered earlier, and I'm going to zoom out because that zip code is not super close to pharmacies until I kind of zoom out here a bit. And I'm going to select a pharmacy. There we go. Continue. And that'll take us right into the plans or quotes. So I'm going to pause for just a second here and jump over to SOA. So any questions as I move over to SOA? Okay. I think we've noted that this is definitely a little bit dry to go through all of this, but it's really important to, obviously this is information that's valuable in training, being able to understand the new features that have been added, but please, if we need to pause, we can. So before I jump over to SOA, you'll just notice that the pharmacy and the prescriptions that I had selected, it indicates here in a quick view whether they are covered or not. So those two prescriptions, neither of these flex care plans cover the specific prescriptions I selected, but the pharmacy is covered. So now, as I said, we have the ability to go up here to James's account and jump to different sections of the enrollment process. So we're going to jump over to scope of appointment. So scope of appointment, we don't have any SOAs that have been submitted at this point. Scope of appointment lets us send a scope of appointment either via email or, as Stephen had said from an exciting standpoint at the beginning here, via text. And so where this is so exciting, we've talked about this a few different times. I'm sure you all or the agents have experienced this on you working with them. If scope of appointment is in person, print, obviously you have that option over here on the right. You can print it and upload it. So you have it on file for audits or anything else that come up. But in addition to that, if you send it via email, and obviously right now everyone is having to deal a lot more with working over the phone or via video chat, or this could even be in person if you want to email it. And you have potential slowdown right here of, okay, do you have an email address? No. All right, well, if we want to do it digitally, you're sitting there helping them set up a Gmail account. Alternatively, you have the ability to, or you may have to sit with them and have them log in, or we have to have them check their junk mail or anything else. So this is very effective digitally, but it also can kind of get bogged down by a few things like that. So as far as doing phone number, the really nice thing is just how quick this is. So if anyone would like to volunteer their phone number, otherwise, Justin, if you want to volunteer yours, we can use you in this case. If no one wants to jump to volunteer.
We all know, I know everyone on this call is not dumb enough to openly share their cell phone. So, because most of you have mine, I'll just go and throw mine out there. 412-889-4970.
It's like if you're at a magician show or one of those Vegas shows, if they ask for volunteers, never volunteer.
Just walk out.
Yeah, exactly. Some of those are not fun. All right, so I'm going to hit text SOA. And so you can see text sent. And Justin, just give us a thumbs up when you receive it.
Yep, I already got it. And so everyone knows and understands what is said. Pretty straightforward. It says complete your scope of appointment from Medicare app. And there's a hyperlink to the SOA. Once they click the hyperlink, it will go directly to the SOA. They complete their portion via phone, tablet, wherever they can accept text messaging from. Once they click that, they complete the SOA. You then get notified as the agent to go in and complete your portion.
Yep, exactly. So obviously you can see how much quicker that is than the alternatives. And so that's really exciting, be able to keep someone engaged, keep them on the line or on the video chat, and be able to move through the enrollment and not have to kind of send it and wait, or send it and say they'll follow up as soon as you get confirmation that it's been signed. So with a signed SOA, we can jump back over to the plans. So in the plans here, you have two or three different kind of options of where to go next. For one, you can sort these plans using a few different fields: plan premium, low to high, total estimated cost, Medicare star rating, plan name. Additionally, you've got some other filters here. As there are areas with more plans, you'll have a few more options to filter against. And then in the plans themselves, you have the ability to click into plan details and get some more information here, including costs, specific benefits. I won't go through all of that ad nauseum. And then prescriptions. And then you can see the ones that I selected that it says these are non-covered, but it gives you detail on the different tiers that are covered in in the upper section here. And then total cost, it breaks that down by month here. So if I go previous, excuse me. So next we have the ability to add to quote. And so if you add a couple of different options, up to 3 to quote, then you can click send quote and enter an email address along with an additional message that will send that quote to the prospect. And then ultimately, and all of those, as you saw back in the profile, are being tracked against James. So you can see if you've sent a quote, if they're partway through an enrollment. So now I'm going to click add to cart here, and this will move me forward with the enrollment itself. And so I have the ability to add any additional add-on coverage that's related to this Flex Care plan. It lets me indicate whether I am an existing member or not, because it will ask for less information. If I'm existing, it'll pull some of that. I'm going to click no in this case, and then I can click continue to apply. Oh, yep. Give me just one moment. I'm going to jump over to our other one where we can continue forward. So any questions while I'm jumping over here? Oops. Okay. So as I think Stephen mentioned at the outset here, we will be sending this training video as well as logins for some of these sandboxes, these portals, so that people can get familiar, comfortable with it. Then if you have any questions as you go, that's why we have the team assigned here, so you can reach out to the Medicare Center at Integrity Marketing email, and we'll jump in and do what we can to answer any questions. In addition to that, as we had noted, looking at some of these features, we want to hear from you about features or different things that are important that you feel would be nice to add. Deja Dowling, as Stephen had mentioned, she leads our product team. And so as there are new features requested, we get those added to a list. We really want to make sure this is the first step in some really exciting roadmaps. We want to make sure to hear from all of you what would be the most beneficial to add so that we can get that captured and get those things added. So I'm going to reshare my screen here. And so once you move to apply, you'll get into this flow right here that starts with contact info. I'm using a different record here that I had already started so that we can just proceed. So this contact info is the same thing that you entered earlier. If you haven't already entered it, it'll ask you for the gender here, and then whether the mailing address is the same or not as the permanent residence. So I have the Flex Care option selected, and I click next. Then it gets into the benefits information, where you enter the Medicare ID number, the Medicare number, as well as request the effective date. And then the check boxes here are all of the information that are relevant to the enrollment period. So in this case, I'm just going to select I'm new to Medicare, but otherwise there's all these other options, as well as a quick blurb for any of those that are new to Medicare or that have to confirm their understanding of a question, why it's being asked. And then prescription drug coverage. Do you have other prescription drug coverage in addition to this plan? In the case of this particular beneficiary prospect, they may have it because those drugs weren't covered. But I'm going to click no in this case, indicating that they don't have anything in addition to it, and click next. And then it moves into other information. Unless the information is asterisked, it's not required. But some of this is really useful to have to help engage this particular prospect. You can see language or accessibility. If they need to have Braille, large print, audio, you can indicate that here. Employment information, email or physician selection optional, if there's a preference. and then email information if there's anything they want to receive via email. Excuse me. And then you have the payment options here you can select. I'm going to click next. And so this final bit of information, it is pulling from the login, which is the agent info. Obviously, I just have a test agent here, but in the case of an enrollment, that will pull from the single sign-on or the universal all-in-one sign-on to put in place the agent first name, last name, and NPN number. So I'm going to click I agree with the above. And then this lets you get to a summary of everything. So in the summary, you have a wrap up of each of those application fields that we went through, and then the ability to indicate you understand signature requirements, sign it, as well as if you're in person with a prospect 6 feet apart, but in person with them, you're able to allow them to sign it right here. In addition to that, if you're not, this is also where the option to send that signature via email or text.
Hey, Jake, just to interject and add on to that. The process does not change as far as what has existed. So everyone that's used the system in the past, this is the same exact process. Carriers obviously control how they would like their enrollment form signed. So we still have no insight on any changes as far as they want to do that. But some carriers do require the physical signatures, Jake just did. And then all carriers are working towards offering the text to sign. So existing conditions as far as signature goes is not changing. We're just adding and implementing the text to sign function. So.
Yep, exactly. So then from here, I would click submit, and it would submit the application for enrollment. Okay. So I'm going to jump back over to John's profile here and pause for just a moment and check if we have any other questions or anything about this process. Okay.
This is the quietest group we've had, Jake.
Yeah, I guess so. Please do. Yeah, I've said this in the other trainings as well, but please do, if you have any questions and you don't feel the need to ask on air here, please feel free to email us to the Medicare Center email address. Follow up. A lot of you have maybe worked with or obviously met with Stephen, worked with different members of the team. Please feel free to reach out. We want to hear any questions or anything like that. And we are obviously continuing to add and improve and expand these tools. And we're excited about where they are now as well as where they go. But if you guys see a big opportunity or a big gotcha that's like, hey, let's address this. Stephen has shared an analogy that I think is an effective one. If we have our shoelace untied, unless someone tells us we have our shoelace untied, we can't tie it. And so we want to get those things addressed and really get this even better than where we're excited it is right now. So I'm going to jump over. Oh, go ahead.
Just quickly to reiterate, most of you know, we've taken recommendations in the past and really developed the old systems we currently use as MedicareCENTER, et cetera. So I can honestly say that 60 to 70% of the system that we ended with up to this point was done mostly solely by you all and the agents you deal with every day. So when Jake says that it's sincere, we really do want it all in honest feedback for all of this stuff. So
yep, exactly.
Making sure you guys know we will not take it to negative heart, I should say.
Yep, agreed. And that is, so we have, we're working with the enrollment tools and helping move forward with their roadmaps, as well as we mentioned at the outset of this, we've got an engineering and data and a product team that's building out MedicareCENTER. And so any of that feedback comes straight to the people in the team that can address it. And so we're really excited about that as well. All right, I'm going to jump over and start demonstrating Medicare Link /Sunfire. Oh, sorry, did someone have a question there? Okay, maybe we just got an echo. As Stephen had kind of talked about here, when you're in the Medicare Center tool proper and you click Medicare Advantage and PDP, you get the two options here. You click Medicare app, it automatically passes them through without an additional login to Medicare app /Connecture, and then Medicare Link does the same to Medicare Link /Sunfire. So one of the questions on that Pepsi versus Coke consideration is how do you choose or how do you direct an agent to one versus the other? The very first one is, as Stephen had described, look at the carriers and see who are they able to sell. But once you've gone through that, if it's like, okay, well, they sell Aetna Humana, those are two of the biggest ones. Those are in both tools. How do you select them? The next thing we go to is both tools are easy to use, straightforward. But sometimes with a brand new user, they might be more comfortable or familiar with some of the layout that's present in Medicare Link. Medicare Link, you have your prospects for the last 30 days in a list right here, as well as a nice little snapshot of the enrollments that have been processed so far. So how many you've done successfully, how many are incomplete and still need work. And then you have the quick links that hit on the main activities across the top here: search prospects, quote and enroll, send a scope or scope of appointment, and then reporting, as well as similar ones on the left here. So customers, prospects, quote, scope of appointment, and reporting. And then in addition to that, both tools, and I can show here, both tools have the ability to get to some support materials, frequently asked questions sections, so that if there's anything that comes up and you're not able to, or you want to check first before asking the support team for help, those are good resources. But then in addition to that, obviously, we're here and available to answer questions. So I'm going to start with search prospects. That's also where you would create a new one. And so I can search based on last name, date of birth, phone, disposition. But in this case, I'm just going to hit new profile. And this time I'm going to do Don Smith. And you can see that between the different prospect or client management aspects of these tools, they're built differently and have different requirements. So between Sunfire and Connecture, Sunfire doesn't require zip code out of the gate. Best practices would be to enter it, because if you don't, by the time you get to quoting, it's going to bump you back and say, hey, we need a zip code. Whereas Connecture asks for it right out of the gate. And then the client management tool in Medicare Center at large has an even lower data requirement than that, because it's meant to be kind of preceding and in addition to these customer profiles. But in this case, I will go ahead and enter the same zip code I had in the other one. And then I can enter phone, email, date of birth here. Same thing. In this case, I'm just going to proceed with save and quote. So one of the very first things to note here is across the top, similar to Medicare App Connecture, this is now saved this customer as my active customer prospect I'm working with. And so I also have the ability here to disposition this customer, give some different information, the actions, the dispositions. So I can say set them as new, or ideally not the case, but not interested if they're not ready to proceed. But then one of the other things is if I'm working through and I'm complete my process with Don and I'm moving on to another customer, I can click this little clean paper icon to clear that record out and take me back to kind of the main page. So before diving into the specific quoting and enrollment options here, I'm going to go back to, I'm going to go back to the main page here, still linking Don, and do send a scope. And so similar to Connecture Medicare app, we have the ability to email a scope, and we talked about the pros and cons of that, as well as text or upload. And so in this case, we're going to do text to scope. There's a little bit more information required to text to scope here that's relevant. And again, this is all to help keep our agents compliant, your agents compliant, and protect them in the case of audit or anything like that. And so I'm going to fill out this information quickly. And select that we're going to look at Medicare Advantage plans. And then click text. And so similarly, Justin, if you want to re-volunteer your phone number, we'll do the same little activity here.
Yep, 412-889-4970.
Okay. Then I'll hit send. A really nice feature of Medicare Link is the ability to live refresh the scope of appointment. And so, Justin, just let me know when you receive it.
I have it, and very similar to Medicare app. This one says, Dear Dawn, please click on the link below to electronically sign the scope of appointment form with the hyperlink. And then essentially it just has a note that it says if you have troubles or questions, contact your agent, which also lists your agent information for your consumer.
Yep, so once you click that, let me know and I'll give you the personal code and we can show how quickly this updates.
It is loading as we speak.
Okay.
Alrighty, when you are ready.
Okay, 423-773. So you can see right now it says need customer signature. That's the process that Justin's going through. And then I have the ability here to hit refresh.
I am completing it now.
Okay. There we go.
Just saved it.
Okay. And so we can see the date sent, the date signed. In this case, it's same day. And then it's indicating it's not complete yet because I need to sign it, but I can click sign right here. And then it's complete. I hit view and it's pulling a signature that I entered in the profile here. And so it's auto signing that for me. And it has the signature date as well as all of the relevant information. And so again, the reason that we're so excited about that, and we know a lot of requests and different things for text to sign with MedicareCENTER Connection in the past, is you can see how much quicker you're able to get through kind of the process without having to go through either getting it manually signed or sending an email to having them check junk mail, everything else to get that one signed. So really excited about how quick and how easy it is to see whether the scope of appointment has been signed here. So then I'm going to jump back to Don's list here. So this list of products, we can do the same thing as in Connecture, add a few here to compare and quote, and then we can click compare to see how they compare to each other, what's included, what isn't, the different prices based on the categories here on the left. Then in addition to that, we can click email and send this quote to Don. So we can email him, let him know all of this information that's being compared, the plans. And click cancel. Additionally, similar to what you see in Connecture Medicare app, we have the ability to filter and sort by a few different things. So monthly premium, estimated total cost, which is leveraging some information here that we'll take a look at in just a second, similar to Connecture, to help estimate that cost. And then company, if you want to do something like group together all the Aetna plans and Regents plans, or you can jump back to monthly premium and see that. Then on the left, you have the ability to select a few different plan types. Medicare Advantage Part D only, Medicare Supplement, Medicare Advantage only, as well as filter by the different carrier companies and a few other fields here as well. So one thing I didn't get into yet, but I'll jump over to now is with Don selected, I also have the ability to come in here and fill out a little bit more information about him that's optional but useful for things like quoting Medicare supplement. So date of birth, gender, tobacco use, yes, no. And then even more relevant, I'm able to jump over to enter medications, just like we did in Connecture. And click add and add that medication. I go through this quick enough that I'm sure I've added some maybe humorous medications, but that way we can at least see how the options work. And then I've got Walmart selected as my pharmacy. I can search, others here. And select those. I'm going to leave Walmart selected. And then with that information, it's able to use that to help better estimate the costs. Same with health here. I can say I'm in good health, or sorry, Dawn is in good health. I'm acting as Dawn here. And you'll see that those estimated costs update to account for the information I'm providing. So then from there, excuse me, I can select enroll, provide the applicant information. And you'll see obviously a lot of the same hallmarks and data points that exist in both systems. Oh, whoops. And then it'll take you to, like we saw with the other one, the Medicare number page here. We did have a test Medicare number we had been using previously, but it's not allowing us to use that one here. So we're going to be getting an updated one. But from here, it'll proceed just like you saw in Connecture to the next couple of pages and then allow you to submit the application. So one quick thing I do want to jump back and reiterate here, and then we'll pause again for any questions. As the agents and everyone starts using this tool, one of the biggest things is just to help them and pay attention to the customer that's selected up here. As you jump into different, I'll use Jill, Jill right here. As you jump into different customers, you'll see, okay, now it's selected Jill. And if I click back out, by going into that profile, now Jill is the one that is the customer that's selected. So it's good just as training the agents, getting them familiar with it, just to make sure to train to check that customer, make sure it's the correct one. And if not, either go into the profile of the correct one, or you can click the little blank sheet of paper and remove that prospect so that you can start into a new one. So with that, I'll pause again here for a minute. And are there any questions?
I have a couple of questions. So I see the red line there that it's a training place that you're at. Where do you click to go into the sandbox so that you get comfortable using it before you start using it with a customer?
So this is the sandbox. This is the training environment. It's just, okay, this warning is just telling you don't try and submit actual applicants through here because it won't process them.
Okay, but how do we do that to just practice ourselves so that we're comfortable?
Yep, we'll be sending this link and login to all of you.
Okay.
So you'll have this same environment.
Secondly, if there's an issue when someone's using this, is there a help screen or is there a number that we call for IT help if someone's struggling and it's not completing the process?
Yep. So the help is back out here on Medicare Center. You'll see one up here at the top that says help. And so when they click that, there's an email and a phone number that will allow them to get access to the support team.
Okay. And then one last one for me for now is, besides the PDP, the Med Advantage, the Medicare supplements, is there going to be access to like dental, vision, and final expense in this Medicare Center?
So I can, oh, go ahead.
Really great question. We can speak briefly to that, David. We've worked with CSG, as Stephen stated early. We're pretty tight with them. We are working on the implementation of other products such as DVH and things like that. We would love to additionally explore adding final expense. I can tell you that Connecture specifically is aware, and they have begun the process of looking into such. So long term is yes, we're hopeful with no ETA though.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on the roadmap. I think that's
Yes.
the important thing. We definitely have heard that and see that as a benefit to get in. Did you have any other questions? Okay, excellent. So that is a rundown of the primary features, training functions, everything. As we said, we'll be sending out links to the demos and the sandboxes to everyone, along with a recording of this training and a few other materials like the presentation and talking points to give you and your teams all the tools necessary to be able to train agents, but also get them excited about what's going to be available now and with this year's AEP, as well as kind of what's coming down the pipe, and get excited about the things that are being built. So with that, any final questions or anything like that? Otherwise, we will wrap up a little bit early here. Oh, I see someone may have messaged a question in. Justin, do you see that?
Yeah, let me check it real quick. I do not see anything on the chat, Jake.
Okay, here, let me pause sharing for just a second.
It may have came directly to you.
Okay, so yeah, one other thing, and I think Stephen mentioned this at the beginning. What we're trying to do is make sure to provide as much materials and information and everything as possible to everyone, to be able to in due course do the trainings as needed. But we are also available if anyone wants to connect with myself, with Stephen, to assist with doing trainings ad hoc. Obviously we have availability as we have it, but we do want to make sure everyone feels confident and comfortable in providing those trainings to agents. One of the other things that we have offered to be able to do is record short webinar versions of these that can be used with agents as well. But mostly want to just make sure everyone has the materials they need and the information they need to feel confident in providing agents the tools they need to understand and get excited about what we're doing.
Additional to that, Jake, just want to mention that we're also recording all of the webinars and trainings we're working on, having specifically related webinars available for on-demand purposes, as well as a structured webinar that would appear to be live that you can always launch and then field questions afterwards.
Yep, exactly. Okay,
Listen, Tom,
oh, good.
Tom Randall, I just want to tell you guys thanks. You did a great job on this, and the tool, awesome. So appreciate all your help.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yep. Well, thank you, because you guys have been, seriously, you, Tom, Jessica, you guys have been fantastic from the start and super early adopters of MedicareCENTER, originally. So you guys did a really great job of bringing stuff to the table for us.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you everyone for jumping on. Really seconding that appreciation just across the board. Really appreciate and excited for what we can do with these new tools and the new access, and looking forward to everything going forward. So thank you all for jumping on, and we will be providing the logins as well as the recording here as quickly as possible.